Do we all have a twin flame? That is the question I will try to answer for many of you in this video. But before I go any further, I want you guys to know that the information I provide here is based off my own personal belief and what I trust in my heart to be the truth. By no means should you believe everything that I say, because what resonates with me may not resonate with you. So, like I've mentioned before in some of my other videos, you should always let your heart guide you to the truth. If there is anything that you don't agree with, then by all means dismiss it, because that is how you're able to pick apart what is real from what isn't. Listen to your heart, to your soul, and the intuition that comes from within, for they are always guiding you on the right path. You just have to learn how to calm the mind and pay attention to your own inner guidance. Remember that it's impossible to hear the wind blow on a calm day if your mind is too busy elsewhere. It is only in stillness and silence that we are able to hear the faint breeze. And the same is true when it comes to our soul, for the soul is always speaking to us. It's just that sometimes we are too busy living our daily lives that we fail to pay attention to those subtle messages that our soul is sending us. And that is where your own intuition starts to kick in. So try to make a little room each day for a little 10 to 15 minute meditation, and in the long run, those spiritual gifts will further develop themselves and help you to connect more fully with your own inner knowing. So, going back to the subject of twin flames, yes, I do believe we all have a twin flame or twin soul. Whatever you want to call it, it's the same terminology. There are those who will tell you though that not all of us have a twin flame, but I disagree with that. Why? Because history tells us otherwise. Thus, in order for you to get a better understanding of what I'm talking about, let me take you back to ancient times. So, according to Greek mythology, humans once had 4 arms, 4 legs, and a head with 2 faces. It is said that the Greek god Zeus feared the power that these humans possessed, and thus decided to split them into 2 separate parts, thereby condemning them to spend their entire lives in search of their other half. Please be mindful though that this is mythology, and I doubt that humans ever had 4 legs and 4 arms. But do remember that there is always some truth to every story, no matter how far-fetched or ridiculous it may sound. You just have to learn how to decipher the information, break it apart, and rearrange it in a way that makes sense. Now, let's move on to the Bible and the story of Genesis, which I'm sure many of you are quite familiar with. In Genesis, it talks about how we are all descendants of Adam and Eve, but what I want to focus on is how Eve came into existence. And so the Bible goes on to say that God removed one of Adam's ribs to create Eve, which in essence is the female counterpart of Adam. And thus, out of one, there was now 2. So if you pay close attention to the Greek myth and the Bible, you will see that there are similarities in that humans were once one single being, and later on something happened that caused the formation of 2 separate individuals. In Greek mythology, it was Zeus who split humans in 2, and in the Bible, it was God who used Adam's rib to create Eve, which is Adam's twin. And even though the method of creation is quite different in the 2 stories, they both share the same underlying theme, that humans once existed as one entity. It's also important to note that in the Greek myth, humans once had one body, and in the Bible, the only body that was available was that of Adam, and it was his body that was used to create Eve, or at least the portion of his rib. Thus, these stories are pointing to the fact that humans or perhaps even our souls, originated from one single source. And that is perhaps how twin flames came into existence. In the Quran version, the story of Adam and Eve varies slightly because after the events in the Garden of Eden, God asked both Adam and Eve to leave paradise and go live on earth. It is said that when they arrive on earth, they lose all memory of each other and become separated for many years. It is only through the passage of time that they decide to pray a sincere prayer of repentance and are then reunited with God and each other. And it was that sincere, heartfelt prayer that granted their union. Sound familiar? That's why the twin flame journey is a divine connection that pushes us to go within in order to find ourselves and God. If you truly want to know thyself, then you must look in the mirror. Is that not true? So, your twin flame is that mirror that will show you who you truly are, and that is the gift of this connection. The Prophet Muhammad once said, "Whoever knows himself knows God, and your twin flame will bring you closer to God." That's how you truly know you've met your true divine counterpart. There is also a verse in the Quran which is 78:8, and the verse says, "And we created you in pairs." And this to me points to the fact that we were all created as such, and thus we all have a divine counterpart somewhere out there. Now, many of you already probably know the story of twin souls and how they originated from one soul. Thus, the Quran also gives us proof of this in the 4th chapter called Surah Al-Nisa, verse 4:1, and it goes on to say, "O mankind, fear your Lord, who created you from one soul, and created from it its mate, and dispersed from both of them many men and women." So, as you can see, this is but a small portion of the information that is out there about twin flames, but we just have to know where to look in order to find it. These are not false ideas, and twin flames are not just some made-up story. This stuff is real. It's just that many people are unaware of their own divinity and are clueless to the fact that they too have a divine counterpart. Furthermore, it's also my belief that many twin flames are advanced souls who have made the journey from higher dimensions into the 3rd dimension, which is Earth, in order to raise consciousness and awaken humanity to their own higher truth. Thus, I see a planet and a peoples who have forgotten who they truly are. And in a way, many people have lost their connection to God. Perhaps not by choice, but by a world that is bent on keeping us in the lower vibrations of fear, hate, and separatism. Thus, the twin flame connection is one of many paths that will lead us to God and ourselves. It is only when God is present in our lives that He is able to bless our union, just as it was with Adam and Eve. When twin flames reunite in the 3rd dimension, an energetic awakening occurs, and the flame of the Alpha twin and the Omega twin is ignited, thus awakening them to the oneness they once shared. Please do not romanticize this connection though, because as I've said before in previous videos, this is a spiritual connection first and foremost that will help guide us back to our own divinity. And with that being said, let me close this video with a beautiful Hindu story that I once read, and it goes something like this. There was once a time when all human beings were gods, but they so abused their divinity that Brahma, the chief god, decided to take it away from them and hide it in a place where it could never be found. In order to find the best spot, however, He needed to hold a council of the gods to help him decide. "Let's bury it deep in the earth," said the gods. Brahma answered, "No, that will not do, because humans will dig into the earth and find it." The gods replied, "Okay, let's sink it in the deepest ocean then." But Brahma said, "No, not there, for they will learn to dive and they will find it." Then the gods said, "What about the highest mountaintop, out in the farthest corners of the earth?" But again Brahma replied, "No, that will not do either, because they will eventually climb every mountain, scale every peak, search every hidden cave, and once again find and take up their divinity." The rest of the gods were exasperated. They threw up their arms in surrender. "There is no place," they hollered. "The humans will proliferate and they will find it anywhere we put it." Brahma was quiet for a time. He thought long and deep. Finally, he looked up at the rest of the gods, a knowing twinkle in his eye. "Here is what we shall do," he said. "We will hide their divinity deep down in the one place they will surely never look, the very center of their own being." The rest of the gods rejoiced. Of course, it was the perfect place. They all formally agreed on it, and the deed was done. Ages passed, and since that time, humans have been on a desperate and unending search, traveling every corner of the planet, digging, diving, climbing, and exploring, searching for the one thing they know they've lost and just can't seem to find. And this one thing that we have been searching so hard for, my friends, has been inside of us all along. But we have been lied to and told otherwise. So if your twin flame comes into your life, see it for what it truly is, a blessing from God, so that you could find your way back home. Till next time, my friends, Namaste.